Hey there, it's really great you decided to click on this video. Firstly, because you will learn a lot about Shakespeare today, be sure. And secondly, well, all these 3 months I've been reading Shakespeare only, and today I would really love to share with you some of my knowledge and really hope you'll find it interesting. So, in the beginning of this autumn, I found myself being really keen on and fascinated by English culture as a whole, and decided to read something of English literature and go period by period to see the blanks I've got. And it turned out that I'm quite familiar with Old English and Middle English literature, but with the Renaissance one, not that much. I missed out on Shakespeare. That gotta be fixed, thought I, and went straight to a bookstore to find some of Shakespeare's tragedies and comedies. Was it hard to read? Oh yes, it was awfully hard in the beginning. But was it worth it? It certainly was. We'll tell you everything about that, but first things first, let's have a look at the main character here now. William Shakespeare, the man who's considered the greatest writer in the English literature. There's so much we know about him and so little at the same time. Born in Stratford-upon-Avon in the English county of Warwickshire in around 1564, Shakespeare was the son of John Shakespeare, who worked as a glover and wool dealer, and Mary Arden, who came from a family of landowners. Doesn't the word Arden sound familiar? It really can if you've read the comedy As You Like It, in which Shakespeare wrote about the Forest of Arden that really exists in England and was once owned by the Arden family. Shakespeare's mother's surname derives from that. In his childhood, William Shakespeare went to a grammar school in Stratford. It was during the Elizabethan years, and education was quite good and based on Latin texts and grammar, as well as built on memorizing a lot and training the memory. Already at the age of 18, Shakespeare got married with Anne Hathaway. Wait, no, not this one. Now, yes, that was, by the way, quite older than him, 26 years old at that time, and moreover, pregnant at the moment of their wedding. After 6 months, they had their first child, Susanna, and a bit later, twins Hamlet and Judith. But the world, well, London at first, became aware of Shakespeare as a playwright starting from 1592, when his plays appeared on the London stage. Surprisingly, Shakespeare not only wrote his plays but also performed as an actor on the stage. In 1599, he and his companions created the Globe Theatre on the River Thames, which got unfortunately destroyed in around 1644, but its reconstruction exists now in the London Borough and really looks like an Elizabethan playhouse. As you can imagine, at that time Shakespeare became pretty well off and bought a big house for himself and his family in Warwickshire, where he spent his last years until the 23rd of April 1616, when he died at the age of 52. The causes of his death are still unknown. Shakespeare was buried in the Holy Trinity Church, where later his wife was laid there as well. Well, of course, it's impossible to fit in one video the whole life of Shakespeare, the life which is until nowadays is full of the facts that are really hard to consider if they were true or not. But the thing we can say for sure is that Shakespeare's works are known all around the world, which include sonnets, plays and poems that have been translated into, well, almost every possible language on the planet. But now let's have a closer look at his plays. Here are the plays that I had time to read starting from September up until November. As you can see, I chose some of his tragedies and comedies and decided to go back to Shakespeare's so-called histories a bit later. If I have to choose and tell you which one of all these I like the most, I would probably choose The Winter's Tale. The plot is gripping, which if you're not familiar with, you will not guess how it will end. And of course, I can't make the video without mentioning Romeo and Juliet, because which is really incredible about this play is that everybody, literally everybody knows what it is about without actually reading it, which I really recommend you to do. But now let's get to the question. Is it really hard to read Shakespeare? And if yes, how to read Shakespeare? Well, the answer is quite simple. In reality, it all depends on the edition. Believe me, it can be really frustrating, especially for a beginner and an English student, let's say intermediate level, to really enjoy Shakespeare's works because of the language he was using. Remember, after all, Shakespeare lived in the Renaissance period. You may encounter with these words, which in reality mean this. Another thing you have to pay attention to is what play you're going to pick up first. I personally would like to recommend you to start with Romeo and Juliet or Othello, for example, because you're certainly familiar with the plot, which will make your reading much easier. Another tip I'd like to share with you is that you should read Shakespeare without any hurries. Make notes while you're reading a Shakespeare's play. Sometimes it'll be hard to remember all the names that a play has. And also that'll be great if you try to retell the story you've just read, especially if you do it in the language you're learning. Some of you may already know I'm doing exactly this in my reading journal, which I love. It helps me to remember each play better, to know it better, and at the same time to, just to relax, to meditate in some kind, like during every art process. Well, and the last thing I would like to recommend you is not only to read Shakespeare, but also to watch his plays. You can find them on any website for watching films online or even on YouTube. Many of his comedies and tragedies have been turned into films and theatrical plays. That's why enjoy reading and watching. That can help you understand the play better. And finally, the time for a little surprise. I've been thinking to make something for those who are interested, for those who are into English literature like me, well, into Shakespeare in particular. And I decided to make this little video with some information about this England's national poet, about his hometown, and the list of his plays, tragedies, comedies that you can, by the way, use as your reading tracker. It's totally free. I really hope you enjoy it and find it useful. But if you'd like to support me and my channel, you can put any price you want and get this PDF right now. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please tell me in the comments if there are any of you who have read anything or even have watched anything of Shakespeare. How was your Shakespeare experience? And I guess that's all for now. See you in the next video. Bye.